Twins exposed. Heartwarming plea for help after their incredible mother passed away this morning. Ella and Jack sat on the living room floor, the silence deafening after the chaos of grief. The news had spread through town like wildfire. Their mother, the beloved waitress with the warm smile that never faded, was gone. Just that morning, a heart condition had stolen her away, leaving behind shattered remnants of laughter and love in a modest home that now felt empty. Ella's eyes drifted to the family photos lining the walls, each one a colorful splash of joy. She could almost hear her mother's gentle laughter, could almost feel her reassuring hugs. Jack, her twin brother, always the quieter one, sat beside her, his expression a mix of confusion and sorrow, struggling to comprehend their new reality. Their mother had worked tirelessly, juggling 2 jobs at the diner and the local pub to keep food on the table. Even when exhaustion crept in, she poured her heart into stories about the customers she served, tales that painted kindness into every corner of their small Midwestern town. Now, without her guiding hands, a fear began to wash over Ella, a fear that their beloved home, filled with echoes of their happiest moments, could slip through their fingers because of mounting bills and looming eviction notices. She clenched her fists, feeling the fire of determination spark within her. "Jack, we can't let this happen. We have to fight for our home, for us. Mom wouldn't want us to give up." Her voice was barely above a whisper but laced with conviction. Jack barely nodded, still lost in his ocean of grief. As days stretched into one another, Ella often found herself reflecting on their mother's lessons. Community mattered. It always had. Ella felt the weight of her late mother's spirit urging her to take action. Jack, meanwhile, had turned inward. He found solace in the kitchen, where smells of spices and herbs danced to life, wrapping around him like a comforting hug. Cooking was his escape. The sizzling pans and bubbling pots offered a distraction from the sorrow. He poured his emotions into chili, a recipe inspired by their mother, whose hands had once prepared it after long shifts. One sunny afternoon, Ella hatched an idea. "Let's invite our neighbors over for a fundraiser. We can showcase your cooking, Jack. Mom used to bring people together like this." She could see a flicker of hope behind Jack's weary eyes. The aroma of his chili wafted through Maplewood, captivating the townsfolk's attention. Memories resurfaced of family dinners, shared laughter, and warmth radiating from their modest dining table. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, with the fundraiser day looming, anticipation mixed with anxiety. Facing a close-knit community came with its own burden of judgment. Whispers behind their backs threatened to unravel Ella's resolve. She took a deep breath, channeling her mother's values of resilience and unity. This event would be more than a mere fundraiser, it would be a test of their spirit. As she stood on the makeshift stage, her heart raced, every soul in town turned towards her. The crowd gathered, as she prepared to share her plea from the depths of her heart, feeling her mother's love enveloping her like a warm blanket. Suddenly, the familiar figure from their past emerged from the sea of faces, stirring a whirlwind of emotions. The atmosphere grew thick with tension. Would this unexpected visitor bring hope or chaos to their fragile world? The twins found themselves on the edge of an uncertain future, a crossroads challenging their hope and unity. The room buzzed with energy, leaving Ella and Jack teetering on the brink of their next chapter. Ella's heart stumbled as she recognized the figure standing at the edge of the crowd. It was Mrs. Thompson, their mother's closest friend and the lady who had had such an impact on their lives. With her familiar salt and pepper hair styled in loose waves and a concerned expression etched on her face, there was something about her presence like a burst of sunlight breaking through the dense clouds of a storm. "Ella, Jack," she called out, her voice cracking with emotion. The crowd parted for her as she made her way towards the stage. Ella could feel her heart thud louder in her chest, a cocktail of hope and anxiety swirling through her veins. "Mom would have wanted us all here," Mrs. Thompson continued, her eyes glistening with tears that mirrored Ella's. "She loved you two so much, and so do we. We all want to help." Jack shifted nervously beside Ella, his fingers fidgeting with the hem of his shirt. He had always admired Mrs. Thompson. Through the years, she had been a great source of comfort and warmth, often lending a listening ear to their mother after long shifts. But now, the thought of having to ask for help felt daunting. Ella could sense Jack's hesitation, the kitchen-bound comfort slowly fading from his mind. "Maybe we should let her speak too," she said softly, nudging him. "It might help." With the crowd still watching intently, Mrs. Thompson stepped up onto the makeshift stage beside Ella. "I've witnessed how hard you both are trying," she said, her voice steady but warm. "And I believe we can turn this around. Every penny counts." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Ella with a trembling hand. "Start with this. I know it's not much, but it's from all of us at the diner. We want to help, truly." Ella felt a rush of gratitude sweep over her but mixed with an uncomfortable knot of emotions. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson," she stammered, holding the envelope while trying to contain her sudden well of tears. This was the moment she had envisioned the people who loved their mother rallying together for them. Jack looked at the envelope, and the smallest hint of a smile broke through his pain. Maybe Mrs. Thompson was right, maybe it was okay to accept help. As the afternoon unfolded, neighbors began to filter into the yard. One by one, they brought dishes, baked goods, and offerings of support. It felt surreal, like a relay of love passing from hand to hand, each neighbor sharing a story or an anecdote that rekindled cherished memories of their mother. Laughter mingled with tears, creating a bittersweet harmony that seemed to uplift the very spirit of the house. Ella stood at the center of it all, her heart swelling as she watched Jack, now fully engrossed in their mother's chili recipe, feeding the crowd. People rallied around them, sharing food and laughter, wrapping the twins in warmth. But as the sky began to darken, casting shadows over the yard, Ella felt a whisper of anxiety nibble at her determination. There were still unanswered questions. What if this wasn't enough? Their home still felt fragile, and with it, the weight of expectations climbed higher. Could this day really alter the harsh reality that loomed ahead? As she glanced around, a new thought crossed her mind. If they had the community's support for this, could they build something more? A bigger plan? Her resolve solidified. Ella looked towards Jack, who was now wiping the sweat from his brow, and called out, "Let us do this every week. Not just for us, but for everyone. We can create something amazing together." The crowd erupted in cheers. Hope rippled through the air. But just as Ella beamed with newfound determination, the evening took a turn. From the edge of the driveway, another unexpected figure emerged, one that made Ella's heart drop straight into her stomach. What had she gotten herself into this time? What could this new arrival mean for the plans they had just begun to form? The figure moving toward them was unmistakable. Ella squinted, frustration and disbelief mixing in her chest. It was Carl, their estranged father. She hadn't seen him in years. His face, worn and tired, was now framed by unkempt hair. What was he doing here? Jack caught her gaze and, as if he read her thoughts, his eyes widened. Is that? Ella didn't speak, rooted in place by a combination of shock and anger. Carl had walked out when they were children, leaving their mother to shoulder everything alone. Now, just when they were finding traction, he chose to show up. Ella, Jack, he called out, a half-hearted smile plastered on his face. I heard what happened. I wanted to be here for you both. A few neighbors shifted uncomfortably, the warmth of the gathering instantly pulling away like a receding tide. Ella felt her hope wane, replaced by confusion. How could Carl think he had the right to step back into their lives like this? Maybe now isn't the best time, Jack said quietly, crossing his arms as if to shield himself from the upheaval Carl represented. Ella nodded, her heart racing with the heat of 100 thoughts. Dad, is this a joke? Ella raised her voice, determined to stand her ground. She wanted to protect her brother, to protect their mother's legacy. You're showing up after abandoning us for years. What do you want? I know I messed up, Carl said, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. I've made some bad choices. But I want to do better. I came to see how I can help, really. Ella felt the crowd's eyes on them, felt their tension. Help? You? She snapped, swallowing hard against the swell of emotions. You think this is how you make things right? We don't need your help. Not now, not ever. Ella, just listen for a moment, he pleaded, taking a step closer, but she didn't want him near. Anger pulsed through her. It was impossible to hear his words over the echo of all the times he had walked away, the years of silence that followed, the chatter of the gathering quieted, and Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her presence calming. Let us all take a breath, she said softly. Everyone means well here. Carl, if you want to be part of this, it takes more than words. Ella felt her heart clench at the idea of anyone, let alone her father, thinking they could just waltz back into their lives. But Mrs. Thompson's gentle approach brought a flicker of hope. Perhaps something could come from this, even if it felt so twisted. What do you even offer? Ella challenged, her voice steadier now, burying the hurt deep down. What do you have to give? Carl hesitated, glancing around at the faces watching with bated breath. I can help with repairs around the house. I'm not asking for forgiveness, just a chance. Ella glanced at Jack, whose brow was furrowed in disbelief. Could they really entertain this? A part of her screamed to shut the door forever. But another part wondered if this could be a strange opportunity to either mend a broken relationship or finally confront the past once and for all. Fine, she relented, her voice hoarse. But you have a long way to go to earn any trust. Carl nodded, looking almost grateful, a spark igniting in his eyes. The crowd murmured, the moment feeling charged, ready to erupt again into either chaos or healing. As Ella stood there, grappling with the complexity of emotions swirling in her mind, she realized this might just change everything for them. But as Carl opened his mouth to speak again, the raucous chatter of the celebration flickered out, a new tension settling in as someone else's car pulled into the driveway. Ella turned slowly, preparing for yet another shock. Who else could possibly intrude on their moment? And what were they about to bring to this already shifting dynamic? The engine of the car shut off, silence wrapping around the gathering like a tightening cloak. Ella squinted through the fading light, her breath caught somewhere between fear and anticipation. The sound of the door swinging open rang out, and a figure stepped into the evening glow. Her heart sank. It was her Aunt Lisa, burdened with fatigue, a look of panic etched across her features. She scanned the crowd, her eyes landing on Ella and Jack, before rushing their way. Ella! Jack! Lisa's voice quaked, fraught with urgency. We need to talk. What's wrong? Ella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Dread twisted like a knife in her gut. Lisa's gaze flickered to Carl, apprehension flashing in her eyes. It's about your mother. Ella felt the warmth drain from her face. What about Mom? She clasped her hands together, nails digging into her palm. Jack stood rigid beside her, eyes wide, bracing for the worst. I was with her this morning, Lisa stammered, stepping closer. She didn't wake up. I tried everything. Ella's world tilted on its axis. Time slowed to a crawl. The laughter and voices around her faded into the background. All her bravado, all the defiance she summoned against Carl, evaporated in an instant. Her mother, the anchor of their lives, the one who held them together through the years, was gone. No, Jack whispered, tears forming at the corners of his eyes. No, Lisa, please say it's not true. Ella's breath came in shallow gasps. She felt her heart thundering against her ribs, pounding out a frantic beat she couldn't comprehend. This can't be happening. Her throat constricted. Not now, not when we just started to find a way to heal. Lisa stepped forward, reaching for Ella, but she recoiled. No. You don't get to comfort us. Not after everything. The anger felt good and righteous, a shield against the pain crashing over her like a surf. Carl shifted nervously, then glanced at Lisa, ready to intervene. What can I do? But Ella wasn't interested in his words or any form of help from him. You're not part of this, she said, her voice hardened by grief. You don't get to just waltz back in and act like you care. Not now. Lisa's face fell, her own pain evident. Ella, I'm so sorry. Your mom loved you both so much. She always talked about you. You were her light. The pang of loss cut deep, opening a wound long since buried. Ella felt bitterness mixing with grief. Why didn't she tell us? Why didn't she let us? It was sudden, Lisa stated, her voice trembling. She didn't want to worry you. She wanted you two to focus on getting your lives together. Ella staggered backward, her mind reeling. The memories of laughter, of long talks under the stars, of every little thing that made their family whole surged. And now it was shattered. Her own words echoed in her mind about trust, about wanting to heal. A quiet murmuring filled the air, neighbors unsure how to respond to so much raw emotion. Ella could feel their sympathetic gazes lingering, adding weight to her heartbreak. Jack turned to her, his face pale with disbelief. Ella, what do we do now? As the reality hung like a dense fog around them, she realized she wasn't just battling her father's reappearance. They were all grappling with the grim void left by their mother's absence. Could they even move forward in a world that felt so altered? I don't know, Ella said, her voice barely a whisper. Through the haze of anguish, she knew they had to face it together. But still, the thought of Carl lingering, ready to restart their family's story felt like a looming threat rather than a promise. Just then, a low rumble echoed from the driveway. The herd of revving engines cut through their emotional cocoon, and Ella turned. It was an ominous sign, another vehicle approaching. Her stomach knotted, dread coursing through her. Who could it be now? What news would it bring? The saga felt far from over, and Ella braced herself for whatever storm awaited them next. The engine noise grew louder, the thrum vibrating through the ground, as Ella instinctively stepped closer to Jack. Her heart raced, confusion and fear mixing in a chaotic swirl. The headlights broke through the dusk, illuminating faces in the gathering people she barely recognized, their expressions a mix of curiosity and sorrow. I wish it wasn't true, Jack murmured, his voice heavy with despair. Ella nodded, her throat tight. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear into the earth and escape this reality thrust upon them. Instead, she stood frozen, feeling all eyes on her as the new vehicle pulled into view. Desperation clung to her like a second skin, and she wished for her mother's comforting presence just one last time. The new car, unremarkable but familiar, parked beside Lisa's. Its occupants emerged, two tall figures, faces shadowed against the glare of the headlights. Ella's heart sank further when she recognized them. It was her mother's old friends, Sarah and Jonathan. They both rushed toward Ella, their faces drawn tight with grief, and she felt the suffocating weight of their sorrow draping over her. Ella! Jack! Sarah called out, her voice breaking as she reached them. I'm so sorry. We came as soon as we heard. Jonathan stood behind her, looking conflicted, eyes darting between the trio of Lisa, Jack, and Ella. The air was thick with unspoken words and an impending storm of emotions. Why didn't she tell us? Ella's voice cracked as anger bubbled over in a wave. Why didn't anyone tell us she was sick? We didn't know, none of us did. Sarah stepped forward, her hands clasped, as if trying to channel compassion. Your mom didn't want to worry you. She thought she could manage it all herself. Ella felt tears prick her eyes, a counterbalance to the raging fire of her anger. Manage what? Her death. All this time, she kept it to herself. Jack shifted closer, his frustration boiling just below the surface. This isn't fair. We deserve to know. The two friends exchanged glances, their own sadness spilling through the cracks of their composure. You don't understand. She thought she was fine. She didn't realize Jonathan trailed off, choking back his own tears. But the gravity of Ella's loss felt unbearable, an immovable weight pressing down on her chest. As the night settled in, it took on a depth of sorrow she never knew existed. Voices around them began to murmur lowly, and whispers of disbelief raced through the small group. A wave of frustration surged within Ella, mixing into the pain that lingered like a stubborn shadow. We have no family now. Just this empty house and memories that feel more like wounds. Lisa interjected, her voice shaking. That's not true, Ella. You still have each other. You have me. But what does that mean? Ella spat the words, her grief spilling over. Can any of you fill the void? Can you replace our mom? Sarah stepped forward again, her expression earnest. No one can replace her. But we can help you. We want to support you through this. Ella felt the air shift. It was a glimmer of understanding amidst the chaos, a moment where hearts connected despite the tidal wave of grief. Their mother's friends were right, they weren't alone. But could they really find solace in each other's pain? In the distance, a flicker of headlights interrupted her thoughts. Another vehicle was pulling in, the roar of the engine almost mocking in the quiet night. Her stomach churned again, dread pooling at the edges of her heart. Who else could it be? Would it bring more answers or break them further? Ella steadied herself on shaky legs, ready for whatever storm this night had yet to unleash. The shadows were thickening around them, and she had a feeling the worst was still to come. The new car rolled to a stop, and the engine cut out with a dull finality. Ella's heartbeat thundered in her ears as the door on the driver's side swung open. A figure emerged, a woman in her 40s, her silhouette framed by the dim light. Ella squinted, trying to remember who she was. Just then, a child's voice rang out, small and trembling, slicing through the tension hanging in the air. Mommy, I don't want to go in there. Ella turned, her eyes widening. A boy about 5 years old clung to the woman's leg, his blonde curls bouncing as he sniffled. It hit Ella like a punch to the gut. The child looked so much like she had at that age, with a face full of innocence mixed with dread. The woman knelt down, brushing back her son's hair gently. It's okay, sweetie. You'll be all right. Just for a little bit. Her voice trembled, but she tried to sound strong. Why is everyone crying? He asked, wide-eyed. The woman's gaze shifted to the group assembled outside, sorrow etched deep into her features. Ella's breath caught in her throat. This was Vanessa, a neighbor who'd come by a few times for coffee and laughter. But underneath that normalcy lay a different relationship. She had been a close confidant to Ella's mom. Ella. Vanessa's eyes locked onto her, filled with unuttered grief. I'm so sorry. Ella couldn't move. Memories flooded back, the smell of vanilla coffee, the sound of laughter echoing on lazy Sunday afternoons. But those memories felt like distant echoes now, muffled by the fog of grief and confusion. Why are you here? Ella finally managed to whisper, her voice quaking. Isn't it enough we lost her? Vanessa looked down at her son, then back up. We just wanted to share our love. To remember her together. She meant so much to all of us, we want to honor her. Jack stepped forward, his fists clenched tight. Honor doesn't bring her back. You all saw her slipping away. Why didn't you come sooner? Jack, stop. Ella shouted, feeling a surge of protectiveness. She didn't want to lash out at anyone, least of all the people who cared about her mother. But the pain was unbearable, pinching at her heart in fresh waves. I understand you're angry, Vanessa said, her voice trembling with empathy. You have every right to be. But this isn't about blame. Your mom brought us all together. She made us better friends, better people. Ella looked at her, caught in the whirlwind of emotions. Fear. Anger. Convoluted longing. What are we supposed to do now? Just sit here and remember. We're supposed to go on without her. How? Jonathan stepped in, placing a hand on Jack's shoulder. We support each other. We share memories, stories. It's how we keep her alive. Ella glanced at the faces around her, people she hardly knew, people who had shared life's moments with her mother. I don't know if I can do that. If I can bear seeing her face in all of you. Her voice trailed off, the weight of loss suffocating her hopes. The boy, still clutching his mother's leg, caught her eye and took a small step forward, as if he could sense the heaviness in the air. Will you play with me? His voice was soft, childlike innocence unfurling like a flower amidst the chaos. Ella felt her heart twist. In that moment, she saw something unexpected light amidst the storm. She nodded slowly, feeling an ache for connection rise, a small flicker against the encroaching darkness. Yeah. I can do that. But as she looked back at the gathering, a depth of uncertainty bubbled within her. She felt hope flickering, but the fear of moving forward without her mother still clung tightly. In that charged moment, she realized there were pieces of her mother in everyone's stories, yet what if sharing those stories only deepened the hurt? As Ella pulled the boy closer, the shadows around them felt suffocating. Who would hold them all together now? What if, in the process of remembering, they only found more pain? The night was far from over, and Ella sensed another wave of truth approaching. What awaited them in the hours to come? Ella knelt down, pushing aside her swirling emotions just enough to focus on the boy, who looked up at her with tear-filled eyes. He was like a small beacon, innocent and searching for comfort in an uncertain world. The chaos of last moments with her mother flooded back, but now, beside her, stood a tender reminder of what it meant to hold on to hope. All right, what should we play? Ella forced a smile, her heart quivering yet desperate to hold on to this moment of warmth. He smiled back, his uncertainty fading like clouds giving way to the sun. Hide and seek. Can you count? Okay, I can count. She turned her back to him, but as she counted slowly, her thoughts wandered. Thoughts of her mother drifted through her mind like leaves spiraling down in autumn. Each number echoed another fleeting memory. 9, 10. Ready or not, here I come. She spun around, scanning the yard. In such times of sorrow, a simple game felt like a lifeline. The boy giggled before bolting towards a large oak tree, its trunk wide and protective. Ella followed, laughter spilling, a melody crackling through the uneasy air. Around her, the adults began to mingle. Faces once twisted in grief slowly softened. Jonathan had taken Jack aside to talk, the tension easing, if only slightly. Vanessa watched with her son, a glimmer of hope in her eyes, a silent prayer that this would bring some comfort. Ella crouched behind the tree, glancing over to see where the boy might be hiding. As she waited, she caught snippets of conversations drifting through the air. Stories began to emerge, happy ones, sad ones, memories of her mother shared in quiet tones. Remember the time she baked that giant cake for our block party? Someone spoke, laughter weaving through grief. The sound twisted inside Ella, it was both a bomb and a dagger. Yeah, and how she made us all wear those silly hats. Another voice chimed in with delight. Ella's heart lightened. These stories carried her mother's spirit, filling the void still aching inside her. But as quickly as it appeared, the discomfort looming in Ella returned. Was it right to remember so joyfully while the wound was still so fresh? The boy peeked out from his hiding place, his expression full of mischief. Did you find me? I think I just saw a flash of yellow, she declared, and he burst into delighted laughter, running back toward her. In that moment of shared joy, Ella felt a small shift inside her. Perhaps it was okay to smile, to remember the happiness her mother had spread. She reached out, ruffling the boy's hair, and for a heartbeat, she let herself feel the warmth of connection again. Yet, as the stories drifted around her, new questions lingered. What if this was just a fleeting light? What if the ache came rushing back in as the darkness settled in? A deeper fear crept in, the fear of forgetting even the simplest details of her mother. Wiping her eyes, Ella looked at Vanessa, who was laughing now, openly sharing how her mom always offered advice during hard times. But as Ella's gaze lingered on her, a pressing thought broke through the surface. Why hadn't Vanessa spoken up sooner? Vanessa, Ella uttered softly, did you know her plans? Did she ever tell you what she wanted us to do now? The laughter faded as Vanessa met her stare, something heavy in the air. She didn't answer immediately, taking a deep breath as she watched her son joyfully chase the others now. The weight of Ella's question lingered, hanging between them like fog. Ella sensed the truth hiding in the folds of everyone's memories, but what exactly was her mother trying to say? Just as the pieces started to come together, a chill crept in, and Ella wondered if the real stories were still waiting to be uncovered. Before she could form another thought, a loud crash echoed from the gathering nearby, followed by an alarmed shout. What was that? Concern twisted Ella's stomach. And just like that, another layer of uncertainty unfurled. What awaited them just beyond the laughter? Ella's heart raced as she dashed toward the source of the commotion, the laughter of the children fading behind her. The world seemed to shrink, each step heavy with anticipation. What had happened? Her mind raced through possibilities, dread coiling in her stomach like a snake. As she rounded the corner, a jumble of people obscured her view. She squeezed through the crowd, her pulse pounding in her ears. Vanessa was there, her face pale, worry etched into every line. Ella! Over here! Vanessa's voice rang out as she spotted Ella, and suddenly, they were face to face. What happened? Ella asked, her breath coming in quick bursts. Jack fell, Vanessa explained, her eyes darting toward her son, who was now sitting on the grass with tears streaming down his cheeks. He was running and tripped over a rock. I think he hurt his ankle. Relief washed over Ella, but it quickly morphed into concern as she joined the circle around Jack. He looked up at her, his bright blue eyes clouded with pain. Ella knelt next to him, her hand brushing the dirt from his hair, feeling the hot tears welling in her own eyes. Hey there, buddy. What happened? I can't walk. Jack whimpered, his small face crumpling again. Suddenly, Ella's heart felt as fragile as the boy's expressions. In that instance, all the laughter felt out of place, like a beautiful song played in a cramped room. She squeezed Jack's shoulder gently. It's okay. We'll get you help, I promise. Vanessa knelt on the other side of her son, her gentle hands checking for any visible injury. Just take deep breaths, sweetheart. Let us try to move that ankle a bit. Can you wiggle your toes? Jack cried out slightly but gave it a go. A tiny flick of his toes brought more tears to his eyes, and Ella's heart ached for him. I'm sorry, Jack, Ella murmured, wishing more than anything to take his pain away. She could feel the echoes of her own grief blending into his. Strangely, it brought her back to the moments with her mother when they de-bandaged scrapes, chased away fears, and made everything better. Maybe we should call for help. Vanessa suggested, her voice a steady rock in the rising tide of worry. Ella nodded. Yes, let us do that. As she fished her phone from her pocket, she felt the watchful eyes of the others around them. They were worried, too, sharing their own whispers and murmurs. The warmth of the gathering felt strained as an undercurrent of panic surged through the group. When she finally called for the paramedics, her voice shook slightly. Hello? My friend's son has possibly hurt his ankle. Her gaze flicked back to Jack, who was sitting still, courage shining through his tears. Just then, a shadow loomed over him. Jonathan kneeled next to the small boy, the weight of the world evident on his brow. I think we need to teach Jack another way to find his strength, he said softly. Ella could see the gravity in his words, he was trying to help. You can be brave, little man. It's okay to feel scared, but you'll get through this. Jack sniffed, nodding cautiously. Ella watched, hoping his hurt would fade like their collective sadness. The connection they shared felt refreshed, like the first light after a storm. Moments later, the ambulance arrived, and the atmosphere shifted again. Jack was being taken seriously, and a sense of urgency filled the air. The paramedics quickly assessed the boy, asking every question with practiced ease. They lifted him onto a stretcher, and Ella felt her heart squeeze. Not knowing how to help but wanting to, she stepped closer to Jack and took his hand. "You've got this," she whispered, fighting tears. "We'll all be right here when you wake up after they help you." Just as they wheeled him into the ambulance, a thought flickered in Ella's mind: what if Jack needed more than physical healing? What if they all did? The laughter from before seemed so far away, and the reality of their grief hung like a shadow over her. "Ella, come on," Vanessa said softly, pulling her from her thoughts. "Let us follow them." As they both hurried after the emergency vehicle, questions gnawed at Ella. Would they find the answers they were looking for? Or would the fear of the unknown keep tightening its grip on their hearts? Just as they reached the door to the ambulance, the paramedic turned to them, his expression both serious and kind. "We need to focus now, but we'll do our best." Ella took a deep breath, wondering if this moment was just another layer of grief she would have to face. Or perhaps, a chance for new beginnings on the horizon. With uncertainty swarming around them, she had to believe that they would emerge stronger, no matter what. Yet just as hope began to flicker, a soft cry echoed from somewhere deep within her, leaving Ella to question if they could truly heal without the one missing. What other truths were waiting to surface in the midst of such chaos? As the ambulance doors swung shut, Ella felt her heart thud, a deep ache radiating through her chest. The sirens wailed into the air, cutting through the worried whispers of the crowd that had formed. She turned to Vanessa, who had a stricken look on her face, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. For a moment, they shared a silence that was heavy yet strangely grounding. "Do you think he'll be okay?" Vanessa finally asked, her voice cracking. Ella searched for the right words, but they felt stuck in her throat. "He is strong, Van. He has you." They nodded to each other, a silent pact to stay hopeful. Still, doubt lurked just beneath the surface, waiting to ensnare them again. They followed the ambulance to the hospital, Ella's mind racing. She thought of Jack's tiny frame and the way he had looked up at her, that mix of fear and bravery in his bright blue eyes. It was like staring at a mirror, her own childhood rushing back, where her mother would kiss scraped knees and promise that the hurt would fade. As they arrived at the emergency room, the fluorescent lights felt jarring against her skin. The sterile smell mixed with the anxiety in the air, each index finger tapping against phone screens and fingers curling around warm cups of coffee. Ella's heart raced as they rushed through those swinging doors, the chaos of the outside world falling away. "Stay here," Vanessa instructed, a fierce determination flashing across her face. "I'm going to find out what is happening." And with that, she pushed through the crowd. Ella watched her mother transform into a lioness, fierce and protective. It reminded Ella of the times her own mother stood up for her, fiercely advocating in moments of despair. As the minutes ticked by, Ella sat on the cold plastic chair, tapping her foot restlessly. Her thoughts spiraled back to the idea of healing. What would it look like for their family? The laughter that had once filled their house with joy seemed like a distant memory, flickering like a candle about to drown in melted wax. The absence of her mother loomed, a ghost that echoed in her heart, whispering fears that no amount of wishing could silence. Just then, Jonathan appeared at her side, his face etched with concern. "I found out what happened. They think it's a sprain, but they're running some tests. He'll be okay." The relief washed over her like a soft wave, but it was marred by worry. "Do you think it'll be just a physical thing? Or is there more?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. He frowned, that familiar weight returning to his brow. "I don't know. Pain has a way of surfacing deeper stuff, doesn't it? Sometimes we don't even realize how hard it hits until we're faced with it." Jonathan's words hung in the air, thick with unspoken fears. Ella felt a knot form in her throat. "I just wish we could shield him from the hurt like what our parents did for us." "But how do you protect someone from everything? Fear nodded with an anger at circumstances beyond their control. I don't think you can shield them, Jonathan replied gently, resonating with a wisdom that belied his years. But we can be there. We can help them navigate through it. Ella looked up, and in that moment, they reached a quiet understanding, her heart lightening with the thought of a united front. As the hours passed, with endless cycles of waiting and worry, something began to shift within Ella. She took a deep breath, and slowly, the weight felt slightly less dense. Maybe vulnerability wasn't solely about the pain. Maybe, there was strength in simply being together, navigating this uncertain territory together. Then, Vanessa reappeared, her eyes wide, clutching a tissue in both hands. The news must be significant, Ella thought. She stood, ready to rush to her friend, but Vanessa's expression was torn between relief and anxiety. Jack is going to be okay, she began, and Ella felt herself hold her breath in a mix of fear and hope. But they were back on the precipice of something, and before Ella could process what but might mean, Vanessa continued, I spoke to the doctor. They need more tests because he may have something we didn't see. Initially Ella's stomach dropped at the ominous undertone, her heart pounding fiercely. What else could they be facing? What other struggles lay hidden, waiting just around the corner? Ella's heart raced as heavy clouds of uncertainty shadowed their moment of relief. Jack was going to be okay, but now they were faced with a deeper worry that threatened to unravel whatever fragile strength they had accumulated. The sterile smell of the hospital mixed with the antiseptic air of her fears, suffocating her hope. What did they find? Ella pressed, her voice trembling as she stepped closer to Vanessa, who looked like she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. They think there might be underlying issues, something about his heart. They want to run some tests now to rule things out, Vanessa whispered, her eyes glistening. I'm sorry, Ella. Tears pooling at the edges of Ella's eyes threatened to spill over. A heart issue? Her mind raced back to their mother, taken so suddenly. The thought sent a chill down her spine. No. Not again. We just got through the first wave of grief. It can't be happening again. Jack's face flickered into her mind, full of determination even as his body ached. I can't lose him too. I can't, she whispered, feeling like the ground below her was crumbling under her feet. Hey, you're not going to lose him, Jonathan intervened gently, taking a small step forward. After all he has faced today, he is probably stronger than we realize. Kids have an enormous ability to bounce back. Ella nodded slowly, calming herself with each breath, but inside, uncertainty gnawed at her resolve. What if this was more than just a sprained ankle? Just then, the emergency room doors swung open, and the doctor walked through, wearing a grave expression. Ella could feel her heart lurch again as he approached them. Jack's fate felt suspended in the air around them, like a thick fog shrouding what lay ahead. Ella, I'm Dr. Henson, he said, his voice steady but kind. I've evaluated your brother, and he seems stable. However, we need to be cautious since there's a possibility of complications. It's likely nothing serious, but we want to run further tests to ensure his heart is healthy. Nothing serious? Ella echoed, frustration bubbling within her. How can anything about his heart be nothing serious? Dr. Henson maintained his calm demeanor. I understand this is a difficult moment. But we need to check thoroughly. I assure you, we will do everything we can. Ella's heart raced. It didn't feel like a simple sprain anymore, it felt like an avalanche ready to sweep them under. Panic welled, flooding her chest. How long before we know? It could take a few hours, he replied quietly, before he took a small step back. Ella felt a whirlwind of emotions threatening to spin her out of control. Uncertainty pressed heavy against her chest. She glanced at Vanessa and Jonathan, their faces reflecting the tumultuous storm brewing inside her heart. And then something clicked within her. She could feel, deep down, the spirit of her mother urging her on. She took a shuddering breath, squeezing her hands into fists, the warmth of determination igniting once more. Okay. We can handle this. We'll wait for Jack, she declared, her voice stronger than she felt. We're going to be right here alongside him, every step of the way. With each word, she felt a little lighter. It wasn't just about Jack, this was about family bound together by love and memories, even in grief. The waiting room filled with familiar faces as the town's support came flooding back. Sarah, Jonathan, Mrs. Thompson, all the neighbors who had shared stories during the fundraiser, they stood shoulder to shoulder, united in their collective strength. Ella felt warmth flood her heart as she turned to her friends, recognizing their resilience. Can we all share something about Jack? She suggested, feeling the shift in the room. Stories to remind us who he is and bring light to this darkness. They began to share, one after another, the time Jack climbed the tree to rescue their cat, how he could never finish his vegetables but would sneak them to the dog, his laughter ringing out like music. Each story was a thread, weaving them into a tapestry of love that showed how bigger their community was than just grief. They were together in joy, even in sadness. Hours passed and each story felt like a lifeline, wrapping around Ella's shaking heart, infusing it with warmth and hope. Moments later, the doors to the exam room opened, and the doctor walked out, a small smile breaking through his earlier seriousness. Ella's heart beat erratically. Jack is stable, and we can rule out any serious issues with his heart. It looks like it's just a sprain, but we'd like to monitor him overnight, just to be sure. The words washed over her like a warm breeze. Relief flooded through the room. The collective sigh of the crowd surrounded her like an embrace. Jack would be okay, Jonathan grinned widely, clasping Ella's shoulder. You see. Together, we're strong. In that moment, Ella felt the weight of their struggle shift. It was not just about loss. It was about resilience. It was about love, memories, and the unbreakable bond they all shared, not just with their mother, but with each other. As she brushed away the tears, Ella realized they were all in the process of healing. Together, later that night, as they gathered in the waiting room, Ella turned to Jack, who was nestled under a warm blanket, sleep tugging at the corners of his eyelids. You did it, buddy. We're all here for you. With Jack's soft breaths filling the space, Ella felt the room resonate with a fragile but powerful hope, a promise of rebuilding, reminding her that though their mother was gone, her spirit lived on through the love they shared. Ella took a deep breath and smiled. They were strong, and together they'd rise above the challenges that awaited them. This was just the beginning of their new chapter. And as the night wore on, she vowed to honor her mother by keeping the light of their family alive. It would be a long road ahead, but they would face it as one together. This was their journey, and it wasn't over yet. Now, if you felt this emotional roller coaster and want to see where their journey leads next, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming up. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these heartwarming stories alive. Comment below about your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear your thoughts, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the impact of supporting the channel through these actions. Your voice matters.